Hey everybody. Um, we're creating this to kind of get with everybody after convention. As part of our culture, we want to make sure that everybody's getting the same information. And Beth and I talked on the way home from convention. We were, still coming off of the high from it, and wanted to absorb some of what we saw, what we learned, what we're doing, and then we wanted to come out with some of this in a video to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And what's challenging, and although it's a good thing, it is challenging that we have people at different places in their businesses. So we have, some people who are brand new and this was their first event. And we have people who aren't franchise owners yet who are at this event. And then we have people who are pretty new to the business again, and this is the first event they've been to in several years. We have people who have been to many events, and just people are at different places. And we anticipated that a couple years ago when we created our website. And what I want to do is I want to remind everybody that our team culture, what we talked about on several calls many years ago, and I know that was the other thing that Beth and I talked about today, is as we do our Monday night calls, or did our Monday night calls, we can cover things for months and months and months, and then with new people coming on board, they're not getting some of the stuff that we covered before. And one of the things that we covered pretty much consistently for a while was our new website, bv411.com. And I want to talk about that because on that website, we have a tab called UFO Getting Started. So no matter where you are in the business, if you're brand new or even if you're not, the tab UFO Getting Started basically breaks down the process of how you start. And it's really important because we went through a process with a lot of people asking them what they want on the website. And what was decided was we want to have a step-by-step process that we can get somebody who's brand new or even just a prospect and get them on board. And that's what we did when we created our Getting Started tab. And I want to make sure everyone's aware of that. We refer often to the BV411, usually when we're talking about the call repository. This call's been uploaded to BV411. This call's been uploaded to BV411. But there is a lot of information there for anybody from getting started to a senior business person to be able to utilize. And I'm not sure that the bv411.com site is being used to its fullest. Okay? So I want to put that out there. And I'm following notes here, so please excuse me. Our team culture is following the way that JR builds the business. And I want to make sure that everybody's aware, like Beth and I several months ago, along with other people on our team, went on Utopia 4 and kind of got the information directly from JR. That information is exactly what he covered this past convention. We didn't learn anything different. In fact, it was almost, some of it was verbatim. But part of it is the implementation. You can hear things over and over and over, but the key is in the implementation. And I'm going to give an example. When we were on stage, Elizabeth and Andrew did that segment about our group, the accountability group. And lucky for us, we were first in line when Elizabeth asked the question because we didn't know what question we were going to be asked. So I felt bad for Beth because she was literally first and I was next. And Elizabeth asked the question about basically what you got out of the accountability group. And our answers were both right. But later we this was a couple days after we had been home. Um, and we were talking about it in further detail. Just to give you some insight, Beth and I work out, and a lot of times we'll take walks together. We'll take like a 3.5 mile walk, and we use it like a board meeting. And we talk about our business as we're walking. And one of the things I said to her is the answers we gave were right, but it goes deeper than what we gave. The real what we really got out of going on the Utopia and then the accountability group was attitude. And the answer I gave on stage was not being married to the outcome, and that's true, but it's more than that. It's really taking the posture that they need us more than we need them, and walking into the appointment and not caring where it goes and not trying to sign people up. It's about answering questions that they may have. And, we're going to get a little deep kind of going down the rabbit hole here. But the point of every appointment is to, one, schedule a follow-up appointment, but two, is to answer any questions they have and to make sure that they are getting the information they need to move forward. And that's a key, because I think what happens is we have in our mind that we have a goal in an appointment, and that goal is to get them signed up. And that's really not our goal. Our goal is to find out, number one, who they know, and those people we want to get to. So once we take the pressure off, and once we realize that, yes, we might be talking with somebody we would love to work with, but who does that person know? And we have to get to that point. And part of that point is a names list. Now, that seems scary, and it used to be kind of intimidating to ask someone for a names list. And if they didn't give it to us, we kind of went, oh, well, let's keep going. Well, in the Getting Started guide, there is a question about the names list. And Melanie Nelson actually gave a presentation at a regional and said that she calls it a database. Businesses are familiar with having a database of names. So instead of calling it a names list, she calls it a database. Whatever you're comfortable with. I kind of like that database, but it's still a names list. But I want everyone to kind of relax about that names list and make sure that the person you're talking to, when you ask them for a names list, a list of names, it's not something they're necessarily going to hand to you and you are then going to possess. And this is something that got lost in translation years ago. And once we kind of realized where it went wrong, we felt a lot better about the whole process. And it went wrong in our business because Beth handed over a names list to our sponsor and things didn't go well. So I want to let everyone know that the point of the names list is for the new person who's writing out the names, not to hand it to you or not to hand it to their prospective sponsor and give up the names. It's for them to have the list of names to work from and to be able to say, these are the top 10 people that I have. So if we can all agree not to get so freaked out about the names list, but to work with the names list as a database so that if you're working with a new person, you can kind of go through that names list with them and not take it from them. Because I think a lot of people are hesitant to write down names of relatives, family, friends, and people they know because they're afraid they're going to give it to somebody else who's going to call them. Or somebody's going to embarrass them with that names list. And that's not the point. The point of the exercise is to create a possibilities list to find out who they know, not to try and pressure them to get in. Okay? So Another thing that relates to having the attitude that I was just talking about is one thing we've heard recently over and over, and this is consistent probably in the last couple months and almost with everyone we've talked to. And that is, people have said, I keep meeting with you because I trust you. And they're talking about Beth and myself. And while that feels good, I think what that tells me is people trust us because we're not trying to get them in. And we're not talking about getting them in. And we're talking about trying to find out who they know, what kind of connections they know. We had a meeting at our pool here at the apartment complex with a guy yesterday who we've met with a couple times. And he literally said, again, well, I trust you guys. And I'm really a connector. And I know a lot of people in Jacksonville. And he started naming names about people he'd like to introduce us to. We never said for you, Tim, you need to do this. We just started talking about what can we give to you that you can get a better understanding of what we do, so that when you talk to your friends, you can talk intelligently about what we're talking about. All we kept trying to do was get to the next step. And I think by nature, we put a lot of pressure on people when we're talking to them. And I'm going to relate another story in a minute, but we really have to understand the evaluation approach is to take the pressure off people. It's to take the pressure off you, and it's to take the pressure off them. And we have to get better at doing that, because it feels more realistic, feels more honest talking with people than constantly putting the foot on the accelerator to see if we can sign somebody up. Okay? I hope everybody understands that, because that's a key. The other thing that's important, and I'm actually going back to when Beth and I first started working together, and we would go on appointments together. I had to stop and think about this because I want to make sure I say this correctly. And it's not critical, because after every appointment, we would do what we called the post-mortem report. And that means what went well, what didn't go well, what could have been done better, what we want to do next time. And we have a lot of hysterical things that have gone wrong. Just for fun, I'll tell you about a meeting we had where we got the flip chart laminated, spiral bound, just like Carl talked about, where you go in and you do the flip chart and you're going through it. And we didn't look at it before we went into the meeting. We went to Staples, had it done, had it bound, and they didn't put it in the same order, so that when we sat down with this gentleman to show him the plan, every page was off. We're flipping this thing every which way to find the next slide. Finally, we put it away and said, we're basically done. This is kind of embarrassing. And we never heard from him again. It's one of those things you chalk up to experience. We should have obviously looked at it after Staples bound it, and we should have looked at it to make sure it was in the correct order. We didn't. It was shame on us, and we screwed up. Everybody is going to screw up something. But that was a post-mortem report where we just kind of laughed and said, we screwed it up so bad, there was no way we could come back from that one. But one of the things that I think happens is when we're in meetings, and I'm going back to when Beth and I first started going out on meetings together, the number one thing that I would talk about at the postmortem is, you talk too much. And she would say, what do you mean I talk too much? And I say, you talked more than 50% of the appointment. You were in convincing mode. And every time a question came up, you were defensive and talked and talked and talked and talked and talked. When you're meeting with somebody, the other person should be doing most of the talking, not you. Okay, if they ask questions, answer the questions. But you're not there to convince. You're there to answer questions if they have them. But you're there to interview them and to ask them what their goals are, what their dreams are, what they want, what this business could provide. You want to ask and find out. And the more you find out, the more you can get this business to fit what they want. And I think so many of us get so passionate that we just want to tell somebody they need to do this, or we start going over everything the company has and they get lost. And oftentimes, by showing the plan all the way through and just not watching their eyes to see if they're even following the plan, you can talk them out of it. Because someone can be really excited about this concept, but then you go in and you kill them with the plan, and you get to a point that they get glazed over because it's so hard to follow. And you have to be a reader of people. And sometimes it's just a matter of asking questions, having them speak to you, use active listening skills, which is like, what I'm hearing you say is you would like to be retired in 5 years. Is that correct? Yeah, yes. It's very important to build the relationship for them to like you. And how that happens is for them to talk about themselves. If you spend the whole appointment talking about you or talking about the company, you're not building a relationship. And I think that happens a lot. It did happen for us a lot. And quite honestly, we would kind of, in our postmortem, I'd say, you talk too much. And sometimes we got into little arguments because Beth didn't feel she did. But now looking back at it, she agrees. So I'm going to follow up with another, this is kind of a psychological tip, and this is something we've been doing it's actually been for quite a while, but you want to find out what somebody wants. And, what is their why? And you keep asking until you get that why. Once you know what that is, you ask them, how would it make you feel if you were, whatever their why is, in 3 years? So let's say their why is to buy a boat. They're a sailor and they want to buy a boat. And you're sitting with them and the only thing they can think of is buying this boat. You find out what kind of boat. You find out all about it. And then you say, how would it make you feel to be on this boat, in the Gulf of Mexico within 3 years? And I say, man, I can't imagine how good that would feel. You try and get them to experience being on that boat. So you get them to say, well, I love the boat because it's this. I love the boat because it's that. This is the perfect boat. You want the emotion tied to that event. And then you get them to say, how would it make you feel to be on that boat in 3 years? And then they say something to the effect of, it would be unbelievable. I feel great. And then you get them to tie this business to that feeling. So it's like, if we could get you on that boat within 3 years, is there any reason why you wouldn't want to learn more about this business? Inevitably, they're going to want to know more. So all you're doing, and it's not like you're tricking them. You just want to know what drives them. And then once you know what drives them, you get the emotion of feeling it, and then you say, we can get you there. We know we can get you there. Would you like to see how? And so the process is, you want this in your life? We'll get you there. Always go back to that emotion. With every meeting that you have, follow up and talk about the boat. Talk about how it would feel to be on the boat. offer to go with them on the boat. Whatever it is, you're constantly going back to their why and making it about their why. Because if you turn around then and they say they want a boat and the follow-up meeting's just about the plan and just about the numbers and just about the products, you may lose them because that's not their purpose. That's not their why. They don't understand everything else yet. So you have to tie it into what they want, and that is the boat. Okay, I hope that's clear. And again, nothing is about you when you're meeting with somebody new. It is 100% about them. And so we have to understand that they have to do most of the talking at the meeting. That is one of the most critical things. That if you get anything out of this video, you have to understand that it's not about you. Even though you want to convince them of the products, the business, the marketing plan, whatever it is, convention, whatever all that stuff is, it's all good. But right now, that's not their why. Their why might be a boat. It might be a grandchild. It might be something else. Don't talk constantly. Ask questions that relate to their why so that they build the relationship with you. And always, by asking questions and getting answers, you can quickly build rapport. As an example, this morning we had a meeting with a doctor and the doctor's brother who was the office manager. Real quick, where are you from kind of thing. From Chicago and blah, blah, blah. Okay. I always, when anyone says Chicago, I always ask, are you from the city or are you from the suburbs? Because Chicago is really Chicagoland, and there's a lot of area around Chicago. They said, oh no, we're from Wheaton. Okay. Well, Wheaton was very close to where I lived for a while in Lombard. So I mentioned that I lived in Lombard. My brothers went to Glenbard East High School. My sister-in-law was from Glen Ellen. My brother lived in Wheaton. All of a sudden, we built a rapport. And all it was because we asked the questions and we went back and forth, and pretty soon it went from, we don't know why you're here in the office with us, to smiling and talking about Illinois. So build rapport by asking questions, okay? I think I've pretty much covered what we wanted to cover, other than we are going to be doing a webinar series. We're not going to do the Monday night calls while we're in this 90-day fast track, but we are going to do a webinar series going through the Getting Started Guide. The Getting Started Guide is the cliff notes to the business, and everybody should be started with the Getting Started Guide, which kind of goes back to the first point of this video, which was the BV411 and the process. So we're going to be doing a webinar series, interactive. They won't be recorded. We want everyone on there live so that we can get the interactivity going and communication going. More details will follow. I appreciate everybody for watching this. I hope you realize that we went over this list to try and improve everybody, to get them where they want to be. It's, we want to grow. And what we hear from everybody is you all want to grow. And when we get phone calls and messages and everybody's excited coming out of International Convention, we just want to do it following the process, okay? So let's move forward and, let's have a great end of the summer.